Okay? These are the same things we're dealing with here, just up each harmonic. All right? The Mane, God seed, or the Ka, is the pre-light oscillation. It's the Divine Father principle. There, that forms part of K, which break down to form trions, which break down to form ectrons. There's where you get ectoplasm and that kind of stuff that mediums talk about. That breaks down to form dions, and they break down to form electrons. So you can take it backwards again, and electrons are dions in density 2, ectrons in density 3, trions in density 4, and part of K in density 5. This gives you the understanding of where this fits in to the rest of that. And the Ire, or the God, I made a mistake there. I was going too fast. The God spark should be the Mane up there. I'll change that before you get your copies. The Ire is the God seed. That's the Sha. And it's the Divine Mother principle. And it manifests as the particum, and they manifest as mijans, which are basically can be considered sound units, just like the ones coming off of the mana can be considered light units. Okay, so it goes from particum to mijans to irons to myons to protons. These are the basic units here. They also manifest lots of other little thingies. Okay, everything from quarks, that make up different things. There's every particle that's been identified here fits into this, and it has its own correspondence with these. Sometimes you'll have combinations of various ones of those particles that form other things. You have muons and mesons and all sorts of other types of subatomic particles here. But the basic building blocks of life and the basic things that you're made of, and cells and atoms are made of, are the protons, the electrons, and the neutrons. They're the carriers of the life force in the life field. And it's the protons, neutrons, and electrons that are not working properly because of the blockages in the planetary grids that are in our Kathara grids, that they are not allowing the primal forces, our at-one-ment, to flow through into our bodies, so we feel separate from God when we're not. And we feel finite, and our bodies die and fall apart. Our hologram falls apart instead of being able to expand because it's not getting fed enough life force frequency. Okay, now, when we come down, okay, these were the first levels of the primal forces, okay? Mana, Mane, Ire. Out of that comes the 12 what are called domains. They're not exactly the same thing as dimensionalized structure. They're not three-dimensional fields yet. These are the primal light and sound fields, okay? We have 0 point, would be the Akasha. It also connects to D13 and then to D1 as the structure comes down. Now, we take it from the Akasha down to Mana, Mane, Ire, go into the Kundare primal sound particum field. That's the first particum field, or a whole field of particum units. It's made of Rheon and Mejan units. It's a Rheon-Mejan field. It has the Akadic level 3, and these numbers are going upward. If you're down here and you want to get to the top, Akadic level 3 would be your highest one. That's the Akadic level of what we call the energy matrix, that if you've looked at the Kathara book or any of that, that's where that fits, the Akadic level. That sound is the Re coming down into manifestation. Akadic level 2 is the E sound. Akadic level 1 is the Ra sound. Then we go into the next level of these still in the primal sound fields, okay? The Mejan field, which means, if you notice, each one of these has a Mejan with it. Mejans refer to pre-sound, okay, pre-sound vibration, just like Trion will refer to pre-light vibration. And when you get into Trion-Miage field, this is what we're talking about. These units that break down and literally form the bodies, the capsules around our cells and our literally around our nucleus and around the atoms and around the molecules and around our bodies. But we're still way up here in the primal sound fields. Mejan's Meon field is the next step down, the polaric part of the energy matrix. Polaric 3 is the Da sound. Polaric 2 is the Ha sound. Polaric 1 is the D sound. Notice, D, Ha, Da. Okay? Ra, E. It ends up as Re. Okay? This is where we're getting the Kundare of the primal sound fields. All right? Then the next one coming down toward light. We're not into light yet. We're still in pre-sound vibration. Okay, we have Trion-Miage fields. That means Trion refers to what? The Mane, right? Mejan refers to the Ire. So it's telling you which currents of consciousness are being carried in those particular fields. There you have the Q sound, the Hu sound, and the K sound, or the Ka sound. This is where you get Kundare of the primal sound fields all together, when you put them all together. Now, the triadic 3, the polaric 3, and the ecadic 3 are the ones that come out of the Manu. So when we use Kunda Re, like we've been using, when we work with the primal sound tones, that's what we are using. We are calling on the Manu codes there. We are activating the highest level of the Manu frequencies. And when we use the Veka codes, we are giving them the patterns of the original manifestation, of what the original, for this time matrix, what the original patterns of manifestation were supposed to be, the divine right order that the intention was set on. These symbols that we are using are giving that back, the gift that was given us to allow us to come in here, that then got mathematically messed up. We've been given back what that looks like so we can send it back in to reset the pattern in our field. So we use the Kundare frequencies there. Now, we haven't hit rays yet. We're still in domains. See, we started at 1, ecadic level 3. The last domain will be D13, the blue flame, which is the key sound, and it's that turquoise, pale turquoise blue. It's not just the plain blue, it's turquoise blue. So we come down from the Miage, the Trion Miage fields, into the primal light Partike fields. Now these are primarily Partike, which means they will have more of the Mane consciousness, where the Miage fields had more of the Ire consciousness content. So you have the 10th domain would be D15, violet flame. That's the She sound. It's made out of Mijans and Trions. You have the D14 gold flame, Ra, which is made out of Trions and Trions. That's a primary Trion field. And you have the D13 blue flame, the key, which is made out of Rions and Trions. D13 is actually the 0 point that the other 2 flames come out of. That is actually a stronger frequency and a more powerful frequency than D15. 14 and 15 come out of 13. 13 is the 0 point. It's the linking point between, this would be one Kathara grid, those 12 points on one Kathara grid, the cosmic Kathara grid, and this is where the 12 points of the other one would fit. But these 3 points, these would be the 12 points of the other Kathara that I'll show you in a minute going down. That 13, 14, and 15, those primal light fields, they would be the first 3. They're the 15, the dimensions that go, 12, 13, 14, and 15. But they're also number 1, 2, and 3 going up to the next Kathara grid. So these are overlap areas. These are where these 2 combined. So it's a 0 point where the Manu force literally remanifests itself. It'll be what some people would call a monadic point, where there's another God seed there, a reflection of the original one that started the first. So there's another matrix that it creates. Now, let's see. Oh, and okay, Rions are, just like we have Trions and Mijans, the Rions go with the Manu, okay? Trions, okay, let's see. I have to look. Okay, protons, they're whatever up on, are they protons? Yeah, no, they're not, they're neutrons. That's right, Manu forms a neutron, so they are neutrons on the density 4 level. There we go. Yeah, don't mind me, I'm learning this too. Okay. Particle spin. So this is where you get cosmos and parallel cosmos. All right? Same thing happens when you get down here, and there's whole bunches of these nested together that give you nesting clusters, and I won't even attempt to draw those quite yet. I have millions of drawings all over the place, and it's like, I wish I could do something easy like the flower of life. There's a lot more to it than that. There's like lots of those within lots of those, but they're actually based on 15, not on 7. Because really what's happening here is you get 7 up here, you also get 7 down here. What certain systems are working with are simply 7 because they've cut off the top half, because they're not working with those frequencies anymore. So it's a little more complicated than basic flower of life stuff if people have learned that. It's like having 2 flower of life stuck together at the center. So you'd have one up there, and one down here. Now, when we get down here, so you have your higher 7 heavens up there, right? Then you have your lower 7 heavens down here. Okay? Again, the primal light fields at that overlap point. D13 is considered the Triveka point, and that's when this stuff down here links into that stuff up there. The D12 Biveka point is where this stream or this time matrix and its parallel link together at D12, and from D12 they link into the Tribeca point at D13 to link into the whole matrix. So this is the nesting of systems and parallel systems. When we come down, we're now into the rays. We went from the domains, which are not dimensionalized in quite the same way as three-dimensional holograms. They're different types of reality fields that are different. The hologram is not as externalized there as it is here. It's more of states of consciousness, and like, imagine living in your own mind and your mind was endless, and you could make any pictures you wanted to or create anything you wanted to, but you were never outside of yourself. It's hard to explain what the consciousness is like there. It's experiential. You need to be able to touch it and be it. Words don't work very well for it. But then when you get into the rays, the 15 ray emanations of the Akasha, these are when these currents up here, these pulses of consciousness, these fields of consciousness break down further, polarize further, to become the lower currents, the form, the dimensionalized systems. These are the systems that matter as we know it can take place in. These are the three-dimensional systems that you can get holograms to walk around in. Okay? You have the D15, just like over there. You had the number 10 of the domains is the same thing as number 15 of the dimensions, right? See how these overlap? Number 11 of the domains is the same place as D14 in the rays, all right? These are the rays. Domain 12 is the same place, the blue flame 0 point, okay, man-out point, as D13 blue flame, which would be the same place if you're going up this way. You end up the same place you would be if you came down that way. These are the same places, all right? They're just showing you in relation to, here is the rays of emanation where they're breaking down further, and they are the original stationary, eternal fields of consciousness. These are eternal fields of consciousness that never, they don't live and die in the same way we do here. They exist always. They be. And they know themselves as being. And it's a whole different game once you get into the higher seven heavens. But while you're in the lower seven heavens, that's where you have linear time and space projection and the holograms that go with it. So from there, from primal light fields coming down, these are the rays. Now, these rays, we had these already. We talked about what the names. We had the Ki Rashe, primal light fields, D13, 14, and 15. That's those. Now, when we get into density 4, here's where it starts to get fun. We start to find out what these currents are that are running through our bodies, and we start to be able to place where certain words are that we've heard here and there in different mystical schools, and nobody really knows quite what anybody's running because they don't know what the words mean anymore. They might have meant something in the ancient past, but the text that gave you what the translation was have been gone for a long time. So when we start coming downwards, still moving down, we're at density 4, D12. Now we know that's our Maharic shield, right? That's the place where our scalar grid connects directly into the universal scalar grid. D12, the sound, the frequency is called the Ma'a. The consciousness is called the Ma'a. It is made of rheon units. Now remember, rheons go with Manau force. Okay, so where you see rheons, or rayons, or ionons, or neutrons, they are manifestations of the Manau force. And the other two have their own manifestations that, we'll talk about as we go. So this is a Manau field. D12 is a Manau field. Its sound tone is Ma'a. D11 is called the Hara. That's a trion field. It's made of trion units. Now trions they come out of the Manet. All right, so that's the Manet field. And D10 is the Ta'a. That's a Mi'aj field, or Mijan field. That comes out of the Ire. So again, you have the combination here of those three currents. You put them together, you get Maharata. The Maharata. The D12 Christos frequency that we use all the time. We talk about the Maharic this and the Maharic that and the Maharic everything else. This is where that's coming from. There's a couple in here that are a riot. When you start to see when people are pulling things out and like they only use half of one and combine it with something else when it's not supposed to be combined that way, and some of the names you come up with. Very interesting. I'll show you that one in a minute. Okay. Now, we come down into density 3. This would be our Turic shields in our own DNA template. The next level coming down would be the Turic shield in our body, and it would be this is the universal level, this is the galactic level. This is where we plug into the galaxies, all right, where we plug into the galactic template here. D9, the current is called the Yana. It's composed of, the next step down of a rheon is a rayon. So the D9 Yana is the next embodiment of the Manu force. The D8, Maya, is composed of units called ectrons. An ectron is the next step down from a trion. So when you're in density 4, you have a trion. In density 3, that same thing becomes an ectron. It's a smaller quantity of thrust of the same consciousness. All right. D7 is called the Mira. It's composed of Iran units, which are broken down Meson units. All right, so that takes you into density 3. Now, go into density 2. The D6 current is called the Treya. It's an ionon current. Okay, ionons are broken down rayons, which are broken down rayons. All right, see how that works? It's breaking the frequencies down into smaller pieces, the pulses of consciousness down into smaller pieces. All right, so we have the D6 Treya, the D5 Mana, not Mane, but Mana, but it's of the Mane. And these units used to be ectrons up here and used to be trions up here. Trions become ectrons, become dions in D5. So D5 current is a dion current, and it is the Mana force. D6 current is a Treya current. It is made up ionons. These are telling you exactly what the primary units or particle manifestations are of each of these currents and the sound tones that go with them. Now, take it down one more. Oh, we didn't do D4 yet. D4. Here's a familiar word that I haven't heard any good definition for in ages. Prana. The prana is made of Mayan units. The Mayan units used to be Iran units, used to be Miyaj units. So the prana is a manifestation of the Ire. Now you can look at this on a Kathara grid, and you would see the middle one would be the mana. And I don't have this done yet. I just didn't have time to do the graph last night. It would have taken too long because I had to hook 2 Kathara grids together, like piece by piece with the word processing program. It's not fun to draw those. But you would have the Mane currents running down the middle. You would have over on, when you're looking at it on your left, and it's actually on the right side of your body, you would have the Mano currents, and the Ire currents would be on the other side. So in your own bodies, on your left side, you have your divine feminine running the Ire currents, and on your right side, you have the Mano currents, and in the middle, you have the Mane currents. And they use a Kathara grid structure to interact with each other, and each level of your body is composed, like if you're dealing with your fifth, let's say you're dealing with chakra 8. This is what it's made out of. This is why science can't see it yet, because they don't know how to detect these other interdimensional particles, because they exist at a shift of angular rotation of particle spin. And down here, between here and here, between one dimension, one set of dimensions, one harmonic universe and the next, there's a 45-degree shift of angular rotation of particle spin. So basically, they're looking at particles that are spinning here with microscopes made out of particles that are spinning here, and they are not seeing the things that are spinning in the same place, in the same space, but at a different angle of rotation axis. That's what's going on here, and it's kind of really funny because it's all right under our noses. It's more than under our noses. It's embedded in our bodies. You know, it's right with us. But it seems like it's very far away. Now, from these 15 ray emanations, we get another set, a smaller set, of what were the 7 heavens. We get the 7 lower heavens. We get 3 here. 1, 2, 3, the 3 huva bodies, right? And they're parallels. We go with them because this is a splitting thing that happens at D12. And then the 7th is D12. Just like the 7th up there is D13. Okay? And it's D13 and D12 that link together, that form the Tribeca and Bibeca points. That's the points where the original manifestation went this far, and then it went even further into the lower rays, the dimensional frequencies. The process of ascension is the process of reintegrating all these pieces of ourself and our consciousness and progressively expanding upward through these frequencies. And as we integrate all these frequencies into our body, we get less dense because our particles progressively transmute. Where we have down here, D3, this is called the ray. The D3 current is made of neutrons. Neutrons are broken down ionons. So the ray used to be the Treya up here in density 2, used to be the Yana up here in density 3, used to be the Ma'a up here. That's the Manu current. The D3 current, neutrons, used to be ionons. Then you have D2 currents called the Ki. That's the electron current. Electrons used to be dions. In density 2, they are dions. Dions are density 2 electrons. Okay? That's how this works. D1, chi. All right? Chi is the proton current, which is the Ire current, which used to be the prana current. See how these inter-react with each other? So what you're going to do, if you're going to transmute and you want to go through a Stargate and pop up on Tara, what you need to do is you need to change your protons, electrons, and neutrons into myons, dions, and ionons. Okay? And in other words, you would take your chi, your ki, and your ri, and you'd make it prana, mana, and treya. What you also learn is that you can begin, once you clear the system, get the system healed enough where it is capable of doing Merkaba, it's very easy to get where you want to go once you know the sounds. You simply think them to yourself, and the vibration sends you there instantly. The vibration is the thought, is the direction. So we're going to be using tonight, when I don't know if we're going to have time to do it before dinner. What time are we supposed to go to dinner? About now? Oh, okay. We'll do it when we get back. Okay. Oh, okay. I'll do this. I will discuss this when we get back, because it's going to take me 45 minutes. No, I'll show it, though. I've got to. I worked so hard on this one. This is the one we're going to discuss as soon as we get back, that shows you how it fits into your atoms. That was tough. Thank you. This is an atom, and this shows you exactly where what fields are, where they're supposed to be, what current they're made out of, and this nasty little line of sparks down here are where they're blocked, either half blocked or whole blocked. You see the amount of current that is blocked out of what are our atoms going to look like once we get them back to what they're supposed to be. I mean, it's bad enough that we have, like, if you look at the DNA, we've had courses where we've taught about the DNA, and we've taught that right now we're supposed to have 12 full chromosomes per 12 strands. Human beings are supposed to have 144 chromosomes. We're floating around somewhere between 44 and 46, I think. And they're trying to get us to, isn't that the range? I don't even remember. All I know is it doesn't matter what they're counting, because right now there are cherries that have more chromosomes than humans do. And science couldn't figure out quite why this is. Because you would think that the bigger and more complex a life form was, you would think it would have more chromosomes. But right now, science kind of like, interesting, because you have cherries and, like, some types of blades of grass that, yeah, tree frogs and things, that some of them having many more chromosomes than human beings do. So it was like, not a general rule of thumb here. How does this work? Right now, because our chromosomes are broken down and suppressed out of our natural DNA template that would naturally have, I skipped over the part about fire letters. Okay, we'll talk about fire letters a bit when we get back this evening. Because this is where, when we talk about fire letters, we're talking about the chelons that form in each, remember, part of chi, part of k, part of cum, form chelons that form specific groups of part of chi grids that make the flash lines for each dimension. Well, our templates, when we talk about the scalar wave templates of our DNA or of a planetary shield, these are made of very specific mathematical groupings of chelons that are called chelon codes, or fire letters. The DNA is made out of fire letters, just like the planetary shields are made out of fire letters. Fire letters are the units, or the mathematical programs of frequency in the template that, once it is fired or turned on, allows the corresponding portions of the mana or the ire or the mane to run through the body. When you fire the fire letters in the DNA, you turn on chromosomes. We have a bunch of fire letters turned off in the DNA, so we have a bunch of chromosomes. They're not just turned off. They've been mutilated, where literally what science can look at now as the gene code is looking at what used to be, there's something called vector codes. Vector codes are little tiny things that are inside fire letters, that are inside DNA templates. But if you take a vector code, there are supposed to be 12 primary vector codes for one chromosome. And for one chromosome, now there would be 12 of those blueprints for 12 chromosomes in one DNA strand, and that's one double helix DNA strand. Okay? What we're looking at now, what science is seeing right now, is of those 12 vector codes that are supposed to be repeated 12 times to form those 12 chromosomes, there are the numbers 12, 11, 10, and 9 are completely shut off, which means the frequencies from D, 12, 11, 10, and 9 have not been able to run into the body or into the chromosomes. Then the 8 remaining ones were cut in half, literally half blocked and half turned off, which left 8 half chromosomes, or the equivalent, or like 8 half vector codes, or which is the equivalent of 4. It can run 4 partial dimensions of frequency. What this has done is literally take what's supposed to be a gene chain and cut it apart. So the genes are smaller than what they're supposed to be. There's more space or junk DNA in between gene sequences because there's all these areas that are turned off. It has created chromosomes that if you look at them as little egg-shaped things, and there's supposed to be 12 of them lined up together. This is another graph that I'm working on that I haven't had time to get finished yet. But you cut the top of them all off, and then you cut half of each little pieces of them off, so you only have 4 little dots left, operational in each. That's what they're calling our chromosome content. They're saying that for strand 1, 2, 3, and part of 4. That's where they're getting our chromosome count. They're counting literally ripped apart chromosomes and thinking that that's the whole picture because they have nothing